Good evening and welcome to Story Hour. I'm tonight's host, Laura Blackwell. My gracious co-host, Daniel Marcus, started Story Hour at the beginning of this lovely shelter-in-place order, the pandemic, about a year ago. And now we come to you with Pfizer shot 2 coursing through my veins. So things are looking up. We've been here all this time together, just telling each other stories like we're around a campfire. And it's been so lovely. I think we're going to keep it even if the world is ever normal again. Welcome back to those of you returning, and welcome to those of you joining us for the first time. As always, we have 2 writers reading for their favorite nonprofits. Tonight's readers are Laurel Ann Hill and Daniel Marcus. If you are fortunate enough to help others, please consider a donation to one or both of tonight's featured nonprofits, Winter Nights Family Shelter and Union of Concerned Scientists. Laurel Ann Hill is reading for Winter Nights Family Shelter. Winter Nights believes that Winter Nights families are stronger together. Adults who are part of the family unit when going homeless are welcome within the program, which is unusual at many shelters, grandparents and older siblings included. Whatever the dynamic that makes a family is who Winter Nights serves. Winter Nights protects homeless families by providing them shelter in a clean, safe, and warm environment to help them break the homelessness cycle by assisting them towards self-sufficiency and into stable housing. You can learn more at cccwinternights.org. Daniel Marcus is reading for the Union of Concerned Scientists. UCS tackles some of the hardest problems facing humanity with the commitment and urgency they require. They work to improve the human condition, help communities build resilience, and support and restore thriving natural ecosystems. They fight back when safeguards are sacrificed for private profit and persevere until goals are achieved. You can learn more at ucsusa.org. If you're here on Zoom, please feel free to leave your camera on. It can be really nice for our readers to see people. But, and absolutely chime in on the text chat on Zoom if you like. If you're joining us on Facebook, thank you, but we're not seeing your messages in real time. Behave yourselves. So our first writer tonight is going to be Laurel Ann Hill. Laurel Ann Hill, author and former underground storage tank operator, has authored 2 multi-award-winning novels, most recently The Engine Woman's Light, the gripping spirits meets steampunk coming-of-age heroic journey of a young Latina in an alternate 19th century California. Laurel's published short stories total over 30. Sandhill Review Press recently accepted her 3rd novel, Plague of Flies, The Revolt of Spirits, 1846, for publication. Congratulations. For more, go to laurelannhill.com. Laurel, welcome.
And I'm glad to be here. And I'm going to start out reading here. I must add that when I read this, just think that some kids of vampires have a harder time coming of age than others. Eternal poetry. I stare at Mom. Can't believe what she's just said. Dad invited Gunther to the family party next Friday. Gunther the gross, the lecher from the Blood Lagoon. That letter Gunther sent me 5 years ago, the description of my vulnerable white throat, bordered on vampire porn. No explicit language, but I could read between the lines. Mom can't possibly expect me to show up and meet him face to face, can she? Besides, I've got a date with Lenny, the non-Gunther, the sweetest man ever. Oh God, I may have to tell Mom and Dad about Lenny. Gunther's rather crazy about you. You shouldn't make yourself so scarce when he comes to California. Mom minces an onion, her shoulder-length auburn hair swept back with silver combs. Her knife blade taps against the wooden chopping board. She blinks, eyes watering. He's just lonely. You ought to give him a second chance. Excuse me. Mom's ignoring basic facts again. I'm 25 years old. Gunther's 300. I eat raw vegetables. He prefers raw steak. I want a loving, nurturing relationship. He wants to paw me and drink my blood. Gunther's more than rather crazy if he thinks he'll attract me. He's insane. We've nothing in common. I wrap a muffler around my neck and button my leather coat. But he's one of your dad's dearest friends. Mom's voice has that quiver. Her big brown eyes widen as though she could shapeshift into a cocker spaniel. I'm about to get the lecture. How Gunther smuggled Dad out of Paris during the French Revolution. How Dad smuggled Gunther into Paris during World War II. I don't need to hear yet another rendition of this male bonding saga. Time to tune out, get out, and bring Lenny dinner. Let me think it over, I say, and retrieve my handbag from a kitchen chair. I'm meeting friends in San Francisco. Don't wait up. The think it over period ends 5 seconds later. Sorry, Mom. I'll head for SF this Friday night, too. The screen door squeaks and closes behind me. The chilly December air feels good against my face. I climb into my Honda and drive toward our local Italian deli. Dad's so traditional. Preparing garlic bread at our house is politically incorrect. Lenny adores garlic. He's my kind of vampire. Mom and Dad, they're so dear. They should back off, though. Sure, a .com downsized me 2 years ago. Yes, I had to move back home, but I design websites and don't ask my parents for money. I'm capable of running my own life, and I intend to run it with Lenny around. I pick up my order. Soon I'm approaching the Golden Gate Bridge. The aromas of garlic and Parmesan inside my car are amazing. Lenny is going to love this meal. I Googled websites for supernaturals 3 months ago and met Lenny. He's 30-some, works night as a museum security guard. I'll hang out with him until dawn. He does the blood experience thing, not with me, but never obsesses about it. I don't drink blood at all, although the trait's in my genes. I'm just not ready. Besides, I haven't been through the change yet. That might not happen for another 10 or 20 years. There's no predicting when. Lenny respects my feelings, doesn't try to push me. And he writes freebers for Poetry Flash. Totally cool. Traffic slows a little on the bridge. A stream of headlights blazes from across the divider. Holiday shoppers heading home to Marin County. The holidays. I'd really love to see Aunt Millie and Uncle Claude this Friday night. My second cousin, Vinny, too. But Gunther might arrive before I leave to meet Lenny. Okay, so what if he does? I'll tell Gunther to stay out of my space. He's got no right to ruin my family's reunion. 5 minutes from the museum, I ring Lenny on my cell. I park in the usual spot. My headlights illuminate a tall, hairy form. That face, like Disney's Beast on a bad hair day. The figure wears a guard's uniform. Must be Lenny. I didn't know he could shapeshift. Most vampires can't. And what set him off? I roll down the window a few inches. Is it safe for me to open my door? All clear. Lenny breathes hard. Couple of punks just tried to spray paint a statue in the courtyard. I scared the shit out of them. Awesome. But is it? Are there other major things about him I don't know? Lenny grins and shrugs. Resembles a huge stuffed toy. God, he's so cute, cuddly, and kissable. I could curl up next to him and snuggle. We haven't had sex together yet. Maybe he planned to surprise me this way the first time. That must be the reason he didn't reveal his shape-shifting talent before. If only I could introduce him to my parents, be more open about our future. But security guards don't earn big money, and his mom lives in a trailer in rural North Carolina. He sends her a check whenever he can. Gunther owns a Manhattan penthouse, a private jet too. Dad probably won't approve of Lenny. But wait, don't I want to run my own life? I should ask Lenny to our family party now. I climb out of my Honda, then picture Gunther meeting Lenny. I've never actually seen Gunther, not even his photo, although I once sent him mine. Bet he looks like the Terminator, only with goth makeup and fangs. I envision a confrontation. Gunther paws me. Lenny sprouts hair, snarls and leaps to my rescue. Fur flies. Mom screams. Neighbors dial 911 and animal control. I die from embarrassment. Oh, I can't invite Lenny to this particular party. About Friday, I say. I remove the salad from the trunk. My family is having a gathering. I might get to SF an hour late. Is that okay? That's what I want to talk to you about. Lenny sounds excited. He picks up the foil bag of pasta and garlic bread from the floor by the heater. His fur recedes. He's almost back to normal now. I'm reading my latest poem this Friday night at this incredible new literary bar near Sausalito. You won't have to drive anywhere. I'll pick you up at 9:30. My place? If hearts could sink, mine would beat between my toes. That's all right, isn't it? He scrunches his eyes. A lock of his curly black hair dangles between his bushy eyebrows. I mean, if it's a problem for you, my mind gropes for words. Lenny is sensitive about his iffy financial situation. I don't want to hurt his feelings, and this isn't the right time to mention Gunther. A storm's predicted, I say, and your truck needs new brakes. Let me drive you. A friend promised to work on my truck tomorrow. Then there's no problem. I flash a quick smile. Hey, I'm really excited for you. This could take your riding career to the next level. And I am happy for Lenny, except what am I going to do on Friday night? The minute hand on our mantel clock advances with a muted tick. 8 o'clock. Guests should arrive soon. I straighten the holly garland festooning a nearby mirror, then curl a strand of my brown hair around my first finger. The crimson sequins on my dress shimmer. Bare shoulders, calves, and knees. Perhaps I should wear something less revealing. Mom sets a platter of rare roast beef on the buffet table. Sprigs of parsley rim the border. Bloody juices ooze from the slices and pool beneath the garnish. Christmas colors of the macabre kind. I place cocktail napkins near the crystal punch bowls. The smaller bowl contains eggnog. The larger one holds Dad's infamous red punch. That color and texture don't come from tomato juice. I'll stick with the eggnog tonight. I'm sure Cousin Vinny will too. Gunther could be here any minute, yet there's still time to tell Mom about Lenny. She hums jingle bells, looks so happy. Dad, dressed in a charcoal gray suit and green shirt, stuffs another oak log into the fireplace. Sparks scatter like a flurry of red rain. A velvet ribbon decorates his thick salt and pepper ponytail. He glances toward Mom and smiles. This is their special party, and they want to include Gunther. I would be selfish to darken their festive mood. Tonight, flying sparks are only permitted in the fireplace, and that's exactly what I must say to Gunther somehow when we are alone. The doorbell rings. I wait near the hearth. Mom gushes out a greeting. Dad calls my name. I straighten my posture. My 3-inch heels clunk against the hardwood floor. This is it. Dad's hugging someone a little shorter than he is, a man, medium build and approximately Lenny's size. Must be Gunther, although I expected a bodybuilder. The guy has dark hair, I can't see his face. But wait, his hair appears so familiar. It's as black and wavy as Lenny's. Then Dad steps aside. It is Lenny, but they don't even know each other. What the hell is going on? And Lenny's wearing an expensive tweed sports coat. He only owns uniforms and jeans. And you must be Angela, Lenny says to me. He winks and extends his arm. That high school photo you once mailed me hardly does you justice. But I'd sent that photo to Gun. Oh no, I stammered the F word, run to my bedroom and slammed the door. Gunther stalked me, used someone else's name, baited an electronic trap, never wrote a poem in his life. Right now, he's probably laughing with mom and dad, telling them the whole ridiculous story, including the bit about his mom in North Carolina. I was so stupid and gullible. I sat on the edge of my bed and sobbed. If this were a reality TV show, I'd be voted off the island. Then I remember I wasn't completely honest with him, couldn't even admit to mom and dad that I dated him. But Gunther's, Lenny's betrayal of me is a far worse offense. Yet when we were together, he was so much fun. Those words in the website ad, one in search of another, objective, eternal poetry. How does he really feel about me? Someone knocks on my bedroom door. Honey, mom says, are you okay? I haven't wanted to spoil the party. I stand and face myself in the mirror. Vampires do cast reflections, despite the urban legend. And I'm 25, ought to be able to handle what's just happened. I'll be out in a minute. I apply fresh mascara and lipstick. Raindrops dot my window now. The house buzzes with vibrant conversation as I walk toward the living and dining rooms. An array of platters smother the buffet table. Aunt Millie's squash roll-ups, cousin Vinny's artichoke frittata, raw carrot and celery strips, crisp snap peas. These are food gifts from my family. They're for me. Dad motions for me to hurry. He stands in front of the fireplace and claps his hands. My good friend Gunther Morris, he says, has joined us for this special occasion. Few know, but his poetry has been published under a variety of names for 200 years. I've asked him to read. So at least that part is true. Gunther doesn't look at me just as well. Then he reads. Words flow from his mouth like a gentle stream tumbling over smooth rocks on a bright spring day. The volume intensifies, ebbs and flows like tides. He could be 30 or 300. His verse is timeless, beautiful. But who is he really? Dad's friend and ally, the sensitive poet? Or the creep who wrote me that disgusting letter 5 years ago, the page I flushed down the toilet before anyone could read it. Perhaps he's a combination of all these people, or entirely different. I can't sort out his identity now. Only one decision matters. Do I or don't I walk away from our relationship tonight? One in search of another. He finishes reading. Aunt Millie daubs her lace handkerchief against the corner of her eye. Mom sniffles. Gunther proposes a toast. His gaze locks to mine. One in search of another, as if he just read my mind. He raises his cup. May we share eternity with the true love we each find. Everyone raises a cup of Dad's red punch. Even Vinny. I don't have any cup. Mom gestures toward the eggnog. All wait for me. I'm old enough to serve myself. I approach the table. The eggnog sits to my left, smooth and palatable, a symbol of my life until now. To my right is Dad's red punch, my inevitable future. Which beverage should I choose? Gunther's letter. I sift through the memory of his written words. I once told him I read Anne Rice. Maybe he got the wrong impression. Lightning flashes beyond our picture window. Thunder rumbles. Gunther probably didn't mean to offend me, just crafted a message for a real vampire. One in search of another, he found me, yet I continue to hide from myself. I ladle red punch into a clear cup. Tiny clots dot an ice cube. Will this stuff make me gag? The mantel clock chimes, as though answering my question. Time to find out. I raise my cup, and whatever else happens before dawn, I'll finally tell Mom and Dad about Lenny.
Mhm.
And I have in back of me a picture, which is the new cover art for my next novel, Play of Flies. And I'm excited about that. I don't have the actual cover yet because we're still working on that. And then this is the cover, of course, from my other novel, which is on sale at Amazon or can be ordered from your favorite bookstore, The Engine Woman's Life. And that's my Spirits Meet Steampunk story. Do you have anybody have any questions?
We don't tend to do a lot of questions, so I'm afraid that we may not have come very prepared for that. But
Oh, okay.
if you could drop those links, those buy links, that would be great. If you could drop them in the Zoom and maybe in the Facebook later.
Yeah. I mean, when the other person read, should I put it in chat or how should I
You can
do
do it
that?
anytime. Just drop it in the chat, and same with Facebook, or I can put it in Facebook for you later if that's easier.
Yeah. Yeah, if I can get to my links without messing something up.
Okay.
I'm not the character in my story. I don't do websites for a living. I can
Well,
barely read them.
We do often have to write about things that we research just enough, but we can't always go change careers or become a vampire just because the story requires that we sound authoritative.
Well, you know,
Like
my daughter was the same age as Angela in this story when I wrote this. It was actually published in 2005 by Unseen Online. And so, although some of the language and stuff is dated because of that, it was authentic at the time. So daughters are good for a lot of things other than being daughters.
And sometimes people try to update their stories with the modern lingo, and somehow it doesn't ever
No.
work. It's better
No.
to leave it in the time it was, and it always holds up better that way. It's
And
really interesting.
really, that's one reason why I've been writing stories that often take place in an earlier time, because all I have to do is read things that were written by people at that time and get an idea of how the speaking went. When I did Plague of Flies, my great grandmother's papers reside in the California Historical Society in San Francisco. She and her family came up from Mexico in the mid 1800s. And I can read letters written to her, and you get a flavor of how people conversed in letters those days. And it was quite different than today.
Yeah, but it's very when you have those documents, so you're very lucky. And that was just a delightful story, just the thing for an evening. So thank you so much.
lovely work. Thank you.
And thank you for having me.
Now we're just going to take a breath and move on to something completely different. You may have heard of this next author if you're a Story Hour regular in particular. His name is Daniel Marcus. He is the founder and co-host of Story Hour. His fiction has appeared in many genre and literary venues, including Asimov's, FNSF, Eon, Skull, Witness, and Ziziva. His first short story collection, Binding Energy, was described by Salon.com as a cross between Raymond Carver and William Gibson. Daniel has a new collection, Bright Moment and Others, coming out from Wordfire Press in July 2021. He is also the author of the novels Burn Rate and A Crack in Everything. He has taught fiction writing at the UC Berkeley Extension and Gotham Writers Workshop and was shortlisted for the John W. Campbell Award for Best New Writer. Daniel,
Thank
nice
you,
to have you
Laura.
here as a reader tonight.
Yeah, I love it. Very exciting. Hopefully you guys can see the cover for the collection, which is going to be coming out in July from Wordfire Press. I'm really excited about it. I love the cover personally. So I'm really happy about everything about this book.
It looks great.
I'm going to read a story from the collection. It's called Memento Mori. It's spelled M-O-R-R-I-E.
Oh.
It's pretty short. If there's time, I'm going to read another even shorter one. If there's not time, I won't. But here we go. There was construction on Tunnel Road, and the car took an alternate route that drove us past the Elmhurst Cemetery. I didn't realize it until we were rolling alongside neat rows of tombstones, gray and white teeth set in emerald green. Stop, I called out. Stopping, the car said. It pulled over near one of the gates. I got out and walked into the cemetery. It had been a year or more since I'd been there, and I felt a pinch of guilt. I got lost in the grid of headstones, but eventually I found them, Maury and Ellen Moses, side by side like they'd been in life for over 70 years. I stood in front of their graves and closed my eyes. The memories assembled themselves like jigsaw puzzles. Mom in her study, hunched in front of a big pair of monitors, the curve in her shoulders accentuating as the years piled up. Dad at the backyard Weber, adding his carbon footprint to the air in spite of the heavy fines. The succession of holiday dinners telescoping across the years after us kids dispersed. The small stones I'd put on the shoulder of each monument at my last visit were still there, and a complex of feelings compounded my guilt. Glad to see they were undisturbed, a bit resentful that I was the only one left to maintain this little ritual. Silas was up in the Chicago orbital growing pharmaceuticals and making trouble in local politics. He hadn't been downside in years. Dora was in California, but getting an exit visa wasn't easy these days. Our little family diaspora, everyone but me. The last time I'd been here with Anna, she'd asked, "Do you know why the Jews put little rocks on gravestones?" She was a lapsed Catholic herself and always talked about my Jewishness in the abstract. The Jews. Not that I was observant or anything, it was mostly a cultural thing with me, but it bugged me a little. I shrugged. Not really, it's just something you do. I always thought it was like, hey, I was here. She shook her head. A wispy lock of gray escaped from her wool hat and fell across her forehead. The stones keep the souls of the dead in this world, so they stay closer to the living. I saw it on the Everywhere channel. I shrugged. Doesn't seem to be working so well. Anna stopped coming with me after that. And before long, I pretty much stopped too. I spoke with him about it after I got home that night. He was wearing an aloha shirt, a riot of overlapping red, meaty flowers with dangling phallic stamens. Behind him, palm trees waved gently over a candy green golf course. I stopped by the cemetery last night, I said. He nodded. Ah, he said after a long moment. This was conversation with Dad after encryption. Lots of long pauses. It took some patience to get a dialogue going. You know, I'm sorry Mom can't be there with you. They tried another encoding run last month, but the upload keeps failing. They can't break past that 60%. A bit of animation inhabited his face. Helen, I just spoke with her. No, Dad. It's not possible. They haven't been able to encrypt her. It's still pretty much hit or miss. Sometimes hit and miss, I thought. He nodded again. Ah, he said. Another long pause. Then his face lit as if a switch somewhere had closed. Say, remember that fishing trip off of Marathon in the Keys? Marathon didn't exist anymore. Hotels and gas stations, tract homes and fast food joints rested under 30 feet of ocean. I sure do, Dad. You caught that swordfish and the hotel cooked it for us. He mentioned this nearly every time we spoke. Best swordfish I ever ate, he said. In fact, mercury levels were so high that local fish were inedible. The hotel had served us vat-grown swordfish from Argentina, but I paid the waiter to maintain the fiction. That fish was a real fighter, wasn't he, Dad? He sure was. His smile was a bit uncertain now. His animation was starting to flag like a clock slowly winding down. A real fighter. I heard a footstep behind me, felt a touch on my shoulder. I reached back and took Anna's hand. Hi, Maury, she said. Dad frowned. Who's that? It's Anna, I said. His image froze in an expression of churlish confusion. Dad? No movement, no sound. Hung again, I said. I leaned my head back, rested it for a moment on Anna's yielding stomach. No, it's not getting any better. He's just not all there, and what's there isn't very recognizable as Dad. She squeezed my shoulder. Rocket, our tomcat, padded into the room. Hungry, he said in his small voice. Hungry. I activated his console and my heads up and gave him some kibble. For a treat, I added a bit of hamachi. He began to purr and rubbed up against Anna's leg. I turned back to the tank. Dad's image was still there, frozen in that bewildered frown. I stood up, gave Anna a hug, and turned off the tank. I stepped back and looked at her tired face. How was today? She shrugged. Not bad. A two-patch day. I put together a simple dinner of unchicken and rice while she rested. When it was nearly done, I stepped over to the couch. Is Ethan eating with us? I asked. I don't know. He's been under all day. I'll talk to him. Don't get. I waved my hand at her. I know. Ethan's room was in the back of our little flat at the end of the hall. There was a hexagonal area of less faded paint on the door where a stop sign had hung for years, a bit of adolescent levity abandoned. His room, too, had been stripped of music posters, photos, and other adornments. It was bare as a monk's cell. I knocked on the door. There was no answer. I knocked again. A faint voice answered. Yeah? Dinner? A long pause. No, thanks. I tested the knob as quietly as I could. Locked. I pictured him sitting in his rig, perched and tubed, skin fish belly pale. My baby boy. I debated whether to push it, make a scene, but decided against it. I knew how it would go, and I just didn't have it in me. We ate in silence, Anna and me. I was a lousy cook. Protein and starch, a little salt, maybe something green if we could get it. Anna didn't eat much. She never did these days, just kind of pushed the food around on her plate. We watched Survivor, Luna, and Triple Play, a new comedy about the romantic misadventures of a poly triad. We put on the mandatory Foxy afterwards. We hadn't watched for a few days and the fines were piling up. The president was doing a demolition duel with the EU PM. A pair of huge muscle cars ripped around a dirt arena trying to take each other out. Blue exhaust smoke fogged the air, adding a transgressive thrill. It was a rematch from last year when the EU guy got killed, but we didn't pay much attention. You see something like that once and there's no point in watching it again. We turned the sound down as low as we could and waited for it to end so we could turn the tank off and go to bed. I looked at Ethan's door on the way to our bedroom. I thought about knocking, saying goodnight, but I didn't. Lying in bed, listening to the trucks hiss past on the droneway, watching the lights crawl across the ceiling, I knew Anna was awake by the little hitch in her breathing. She knew I was awake too. Where do you think he goes? She asked. Your dad. Where do you think he goes when he's not talking to us? I listened to the droneway, to the little night sounds of the flat settling and creaking around us. I don't know if he goes anywhere. I don't know if he's even aware of anything between our visits. We could ask him. She chuckled softly. Ah, she said in a pretty good imitation of him, a low, gravelly old man's voice. I chuckled too. Ah, I said. I drifted off to sleep. When I awoke, the sky was beginning to lighten. Anna breathed next to me. I heard the hitch. I rolled over and put my hand on her shoulder. You've been awake this whole time? After a while, she said, I don't want to do it. Do what? Encryption. I don't want it. She turned to me. Promise me, she said. Rocket jumped up on our bed and butted his head up against my foot. Sure, okay. I promise. Hungry, Rocket said. Ethan joined us for breakfast. He looked pale and tired. Anna put a big plate of eggs and bacon in front of him. While she was fussing, she gave me one of those secret spouse looks. After 30 years, we could read each other pretty well. Be nice, she was saying. Talk to him. I cleared my throat. So, Ethan, what's going on with you these days? He looked a little distracted for a second, a mini 1,000-yard stare. Maybe he was scanning my question for hostility or sarcasm, but I really wanted to know. Well, the swarm keeps growing. His voice was a little hoarse, like it hurt to talk. I had to give him credit for trying. How many are you? I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. We've got 22 now with Rama and Abi. They're new and their English isn't so good, so everybody has to slow down while the translation sinks across the swarm, but it's getting better. It was more than I'd heard him say in months. I wanted to keep it going, but then Anna started coughing. It went on for a while. I poured some water for her, but she waved it away. Ethan had that long stare again. I couldn't tell if he was thinking or talking to a swarm or what. Finally, Anna stopped. She took the glass and drained most of it, her Adam's apple bobbing up and down as she swallowed. Are you all right, Mom? Ethan asked. We're worried about you. From the way he said it, I didn't think he meant we, as in me and Dad. I'm fine, Ethan. We hadn't spoken with him about her illness yet. Just a little cold. We? I asked. He looked embarrassed and annoyed at the same time. Well, yes, me, all of us. Anna was giving me that look, nothing secret about it this time, but I went ahead. In for a penny, whatever that was. Who do we get when you're sitting here with us, Ethan? Rama? Abi? You? I leaned in and looked him in the eye as if I were looking through a window into somebody's living room. I waved. Hi, Rama. Hi, Abi. Stop it. Anna hardly ever raised her voice. Ethan and I both looked at her. Just stop. I took a deep breath. I'm sorry, but I really want to know, who are you? It's not like that, Dad. Well, what is it like? His eyes lost focus for a second. I'm still me. We're all individuals and nobody's encrypted. We're all still alive, not like Pops. In the swarm, we share a contact space. We share everything with each other. I thought about it, trying to grok what it would be like, never being alone, but never having the sanctuary of solitude. I just couldn't imagine why anybody would want that. I felt like I'd failed Ethan because he wanted it. So they're your family now. No, he was adamant, almost angry. I mean, yes, but you're my family too. Why can't I have two families? Nobody said anything after that. Ethan finished his breakfast and stood up. Thanks for breakfast, Mom. She turned her cheek towards him. He leaned in and gave her a kiss. He looked at me. Are we good, Dad? I nodded, forced a smile. Yes, son, we're good. Anna died early the next morning. The sky was just beginning to lighten, the night leaching darkness from one side. She was turned away from me over on her side of the bed. This was when she usually woke up in the pre-dawn stillness. I listened for the hitch, but it didn't come. I reached out and touched her arm. Her skin was cool. I felt a wave washing over me, huge and powerful and saline. And then I was the wave, surging, collapsing. Anna, I said. I called wellness services. They said they would send out a team within a couple of hours. I straightened her nightgown where it had become disheveled from sleep and made the bed up around her. Lying there with her eyes closed, she looked like she was just resting. I got up and knocked on Ethan's door. Yeah? Can I come in? The lock clicked and the door opened a bit, just enough to see his face. What is it? Please. He opened the door and stepped aside. Tubes and wires led from various parts of him to a small gray cube on wheels. A softly glowing display floated in the air above it. He shuffled back to a big recliner, sat down and looked at me. I didn't know how to say it to him. I didn't know how to say anything to him. Mom died last night, I said finally. He flinched and his eyes welled up. What? She's been sick for a while. She didn't want you to worry. He went blank, that 1,000-yard stare. 5 seconds, 10, 20. Ethan? Nothing. I got up quietly and left the room. The crew from Wellness was very nice, very professional and understanding. The young woman in light blue coveralls looked over Anna's body and took some measurements. Her companion was an older woman with a kind, round face. Maybe you'd better wait in the kitchen, she said. No, I said, I want to be here with Anna. She nodded, produced a slate, and asked me a few questions. Ethan appeared at the doorway while she was interviewing me, looking gaunt and sad, but he didn't say anything. When they were done, they zipped her up in a black plastic bag, unfolded a gurney from a suitcase, and wheeled her out. At the door, the older woman turned to me, slate in hand. We'll send her remains in 7 to 10 days. There's some nice urns available at various prices. If you don't do anything, you'll get a very tasteful green box. Plain, but, you know. She smiled and shrugged. We'll send out instructions as to what you can and can't do with the remains. Please read them. The penalties are pretty steep. We stood there long after they left, just standing there, looking at the door. I turned to him. His skin stretched across his cheekbones, so pale it was almost transparent. His eyes, big and shimmering. I put my hand on his shoulder. He tensed, and he let me take him in my arms. He felt insubstantial, as if his bones were hollow as a bird's. I tried to tell Dad about it. There he was in the tank, wearing the same gaudy shirt, the cheesy representation of golf heaven stretched out behind him. Anna's gone, Dad. Anna? Yes, Dad, Anna. She died yesterday. You know she's been sick for a long time. He nodded. Anna. Yes, Dad, Anna. Long pause. We didn't have much of a memorial service. Doris still couldn't get a visa to leave California. And Silas said he couldn't get a flight back in time for an election he was working on, something about home and transfers. We had a presents call after Anna came in the mail. The urn I got her was plain but nice, a burnished aluminum cylinder. I paid extra for the engraving. In perfect looping cursive, it read, Anna Moses, 2055 to 2114. Beyond every essence, a new essence awaits. I put the urn in the middle of the kitchen table. Ethan and I sat on one side. Dora and Silas flickered across from us. I made a little food for me and Ethan, but neither of us ate much. We all said a few things about Anna, about what we wanted to remember. Then the conversation kind of merged into stories about mom and dad, leaving Ethan pretty much out of it. Silas's lag made everything more difficult. I think we were all a little relieved when we said our goodbyes. Ethan and I sat there looking at each other after their images winked out. After a while, he reached out and touched my hand. "We're here for you," he said. I canceled the encryption contract for Mom and got my deposit back. I tried to get my money back for Dad too, but they pushed back and I didn't have the fight in me, so I just stopped checking in with him. I didn't feel too bad about it. You can't lose something that's already gone. A couple of months later, I got a notice from the Elmhurst Cemetery that the feds had eminent domained the land for a droneway extension. They offered a small settlement. I wasn't surprised. Nobody got buried anymore. It was so expensive. They offered to send me the remains, but I didn't know what I'd do with them, so I checked no on the form, and that was that. But I wanted to visit them one last time. I told the car to take the long way, avoiding most of the strip malls and mega projects. It was late November, and the trees had just shaken off their last blankets of red and gold and yellow. Bare fractal branches scraped the gray sky. We pulled over on the shoulder next to an unbroken stretch of trees. I got out and breathed in the musty smell of damp leaf mulch and the sharp, clean smell of impending snow. A few flakes drifted down out of the sky. There were signs outside the cemetery about the new construction project. I walked slowly among the monuments, navigating to my parents. The wind was starting to pick up. I turned my collar up and continued walking, head down against the cold, until I found their graves. Snowflakes landed on the gravestones and melted immediately, leaving little patches of wetness. I brought Anna with me and upended the canister over the plots, moving it back and forth. The wind took most of the ash. A few small black chunks littered the green. Soon they would be buried under a blanket of snow. The stones were still there on the shoulders of the monuments. I reached out and gathered them up, smooth and light in my hand. They clicked together in my pocket as I walked back to the car. Well, that was that one. Do we have time for another one?
We've got about 10 minutes, so it depends on how long it is.
It's pretty short. It's like super short. I think it's about 10 minutes.
All right.
So if I can find it, which I believe I can.
I really love that we've just had two extremely different stories about families navigating eternity.
Yeah. Here's another one, actually, about families navigating eternity.
We don't theme these, but they come together. It's so cool.
Okay. This is called Click to Chat. It's barely science fiction. When I finished the manuscript, I waved it next to one of Gardner's best of collections to kind of make it science fiction. But it appeared in a journal called Sinking City last year, maybe the year before. I think it was right before the pandemic. So click to chat. The house was full of people and the insect hum of their voices. Their presence made his living room look oddly foreign, and it was easy for Bob to imagine for a moment that he too was a guest. He stood awkwardly next to the fireplace, drink in hand. People approached, inquired, veered off. Nearly everyone had brought something to eat or drink, and every available surface in the kitchen was loaded with casseroles, salads, plates of cookies, sushi mandalas, paella pans. There was something about bereavement and food. It wasn't comfort. There could be no comfort, but it was deeply tribal nonetheless. What Bob really wanted was a good stiff drink, but he was afraid of where that would lead, so he sipped his glass of Pinot and tried not to look like he wished they would all just fucking leave. A cluster of Jenna's friends, bristling with piercings and spiky hair, huddled near the door. Bob had known most of them since preschool. A willowy girl in sleeveless denim, blue, caught his eye. She walked up to him and gave him a loose-limbed hug. "You guys okay?" she asked. Bob had a sudden, vivid memory of a trip to Marine World, maybe 6 years back, an impossibly distant other life. It was just Jenna, Lou, and him. The girls orbited around him like wild, giggling moons as they explored the park. They slept, curled up in the back seat together the entire drive home. It was a good day. Bob shrugged, smiled sadly. How could we be okay? Sorry, stupid question. She looked away, biting her lip. A single tear tracked down her cheek. She took a breath, looked up at him again. How's Mrs. P holding up? She's hanging in there. I'm really glad you came, Lou. In fact, Mrs. P hadn't stopped crying for 3 days and was upstairs now in a shade-darkened room, tossing in a sweat-drenched Ambien doze. Bob was almost glad of his hostly duties because they took him off the front lines with her. He felt a stab of guilt at the thought. Jenna's friends were the first to leave. Lou turned on her way out and gave him a sad little wave. Bob's colleagues from the office were next. A handshake conga line and a pat on the shoulder from the head of the firm. The secretary hugged him and cried a little. Give my best to Allie, she said. I will, Bob promised. After the neighbors left and a few other parents from the school community paid their respects and backed out the door looking guiltily relieved. Fellow travelers for many years, their connection now abruptly severed. There was just Allie's sister, Darcy, and her deadwood husband, Frank. Darcy flitted about cleaning while Frank helped himself to a healthy dose of Glenlivet from Bob's liquor cabinet. Hell of a thing, Frank said. So young. Bob remembered Jenna's description of him as that fucking retard Aunt Darcy married, and nearly smiled, then caught himself, and a wave of grief rushed through him like the ocean through a rocky channel, leaving him breathless for a moment. You okay, Bob? Frank asked, a hint of slur in his voice. Yeah, I'm fine, Frank. I just need to sit down. Bob sat in one of the two floral patterned wing chairs bookending the fireplace. Frank stood watching him for a moment, then sat in the matching chair, resting his drink on his thigh. They spoke no further, and Bob tried to will his mind empty of thought. After a few moments, Darcy appeared, pushing back an errant blonde lock from her forehead. All clean, she said. She was a ditz, but Bob had come to like her, even love her over the years. Her luck with men was almost comically abysmal. Thanks, Darcy. You didn't have to do all that. She leaned over and pecked him on the cheek. Don't worry about it. You just take care of Allie and yourself. When they left, silence descended on the house with the finality of a closing curtain. Bob returned to the chair next to the fireplace and sipped his drink. Upstairs, Allie awakened and began to weep, a soft, desperate keening that seemed to come from everywhere in the house at once. Bob sighed. He didn't want to face her and felt it again, that pinprick of guilt. Her grief was no more acute than his, he felt, but it demanded more attention, infinite attention, really, a black hole that swallowed all solace. He didn't blame her at all. He just didn't know how to help her. He couldn't even help himself. He set his glass on the coffee table and went upstairs. The hallway was dark. The door to Jenna's room was open a crack. He walked past without looking in. His bedroom door was shut, and he placed his palm flat against it. From within, the sound of weeping continued. Allie? There was no answer. He gently pushed the door open. The air in the room was humid and had a strange oceanic smell. Allie sat on the edge of the bed. Her grief had an animal quality, primal, pre-verbal. He sat next to her, put his hand on her shoulder. She vibrated with a fine tremor. Every now and then she would gasp, a breathing reflex. The keening would catch, then continue. Bob pulled back the collar of her nightgown just a bit, kissed her bare shoulder, and left her there. Bob's home office was a long card table in the corner of the garage. There was a multi-purpose printer, a big monitor, a keyboard. Several rows of shelves sagged under a haphazard collection of tools, books, and boxes with faded, peeling labels. In the opposite corner, amidst a litter of discarded plastic lawn toys, sat a red bicycle with flat tires and training wheels. Faded blue ribbons dangled limply from the handlebars. He sat down and stared at the flat gray screen until he imagined motion within its depths. He pushed back his chair and went back in the house. He cocked his head to listen. Allie had stopped crying. He imagined her sitting on the edge of the bed, staring off into nothing. The furnace sighed on. A car whispered past on the street outside. Bob poured himself 2 fingers of Glenlivet and returned to the garage. He sat at his desk and took a sip of whiskey. His eyes watered and his chest filled with heat. He missed her so badly. It was like a physical hypersensitivity, a migraine, or an opiate withdrawal, a painfully acute awareness of smells and changes in light. He double-clicked a shortcut on his desktop and her homepage appeared. There were dozens of pictures, mostly of Jenna smiling, occupying a center of gravity among several friends, a couple of somber art school poses, and several with Allie and Bob. He was glad that she wasn't embarrassed to post them. In her most recent photograph, just a few days before she died, she had shaved her head and carved in the emerging stubble swirling Maori-like designs. She had a pierced eyebrow and upper lip. This too was something of an art school pic, but in spite of its edginess, it seemed to capture better than the others the essence of Jenna as a much younger girl. He could see her peering out, smiling, just behind the hardware and the adolescent piss-off frown. Her profile said she liked basketball. He knew that. Rimbaud, he had no idea. And motorcycles, he'd have to have a talk with her. And it hit him again, that surge of grief. Have a talk with her. So acute, he lost track of himself for a moment. Her status read, Smith is nice. Mount Holyoke is a Gothic prison. Amherst is Amherst. In Logan now, waiting for the plane home. I love airports, monuments to transients, the static hiss between stations. She must have posted from her cell phone minutes before the explosion. Bob tried to imagine it, an instant of heat and light, intense pressure, a sound of the sky ripping open. He hoped it was fast, but she didn't have time to register what was happening. He wondered if she thought of them in those last milliseconds, then cursed with narcissism. It seemed like he was living half the time in fugue, replaying snippets of time with her, random moments, conversations, real and imagined. They surfaced haphazardly, pulled him in, played themselves out, and left him stunned and empty. His eyes kept returning to the icon in the upper right corner of the screen, yellow smiling face and side profile beneath the word bubble. Inside the bubble, click to chat. He slid the cursor over the icon, hovered for a moment, then willed his finger down on the mouse button. Jenna's avatar appeared next to his keyboard, a smiling, translucent, foot-tall pixie. Tiny diamonds of dust swam on the light beams emanating from small twin sources beneath the screen. The scan had been taken about a year before, so it captured Jenna before her severe phase. Her hair was shoulder length and she wore jeans and a plain green t-shirt. She tilted her head, a coltish gesture he knew well. Hey, Dad, what's up? Bob's breath caught in his throat. The voice was almost right. Jenna with syllables oddly clipped. He knew it was nothing more than a bit of digital magic cranked out by a kid hunkered down in a cubicle amidst a litter of Nerf toys and empty soda cans, but it was still a shock. Jenna tilted her head the other way. Hey, Dad, what's up? This is stupid, he thought. Hi, Jen. His voice cracked. Hey, how are you? Bob didn't say anything. The avatar shifted her weight, brushed back her hair. You probably figured out that I'm somewhere else right now. My little doppel G here will record whatever you want to tell me, and I'll have a look at it later. We miss you terribly. Jenna frowned disarmingly. Sorry, I didn't get that. We love you. Jenna smiled. I love you too, Dad. Who always loves you. I love you too, Dad. From far away, he heard the high whine of engines, a plane settling into SFO final approach. He cocked his head, listening until he couldn't hear it anymore. You haven't said anything for a while, so I'm going to go. Bye. No, Bob shouted, startling himself. Wait. Jenna tilted her head again, looking, he imagined, just a trifle impatient. The static hiss between stations, he thought. Something rustled outside, probably a raccoon. He closed his eyes and saw clever, busy hands. You haven't said anything for a while, so I'm going to go. Bye. He did nothing this time. After a few seconds, the image winked out. He sat there for a long time. When he was ready, he pushed his chair back, stood up, and stretched. He let himself back into the house and went upstairs. Allie was sleeping again, her breathing deep and regular. He slipped his clothes off and slid under the sheets, careful not to wake her. She whimpered softly, turned on her side, facing away from him, and backed closer. He curled to fit her, feeling her warmth, draping his arm across her hip. He shifted restlessly as he drifted off to sleep, and she moved in response, their somnambular dance as familiar as walking.
I feel like the two of you wrote from the same prompt and went in completely different directions. Which is wonderful. Yeah. I just love it. I just love it that we have writers from all over coming together with no idea what each other are reading and that this happens. Yeah. So we do this every week. Next week, we have Laura Gray and Nicole J. LaBeouf and maybe Nicole's bunny. You can keep up to date about upcoming authors at Story Hour 2020, and you can see any programs you may have missed. Watch this one another time or two if you want on the Story Hour page on Facebook. Laurel, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yes, thank you, Laurel.
And Daniel, it's great to have you reading. It's always great to have you hosting too, but I love hearing your stories.
Thank you so much.
And all of you who came, thank you so much. All of you who are watching this later, thank you for watching when you can. We love being together with you around this little campfire and spinning the fictive dream together. Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Be well. Stay safe. Thanks, Laura.